Families can't eat, but lawmakers still feast. Welcome to the shutdown. Kids could lose food, but the rich get their tax breaks. So, welcome to the shutdown. Right now, as you're watching this, we are hours away from a government shutdown. And I need you to understand what's actually happening because every ding dong in the GOP is going to make you think this is about transgender, illegal immigrant gang members getting free abortions while stealing your jobs and eating your pets. Here's JD Vance with the actual lie that they're telling. Cut to the clip.
We just had a very frank conversation with the Senate and House Democratic leadership. Look, the principle at stake here is very simple. We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about health care policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out a bipartisan solution, but you don't shut the government down. In other words, you don't put a gun to the American people's head and say, unless you do exactly what Senate and House Democrats want you to do, we're going to shut down your government. That's exactly what they're proposing out there. Now, we have to remember, they're very frustrated. They say that they're very frustrated about the fact that this negotiation has not taken place until today. But if you look at the original thing they did with this negotiation, it was a $1.5 trillion spending package, basically saying to the American people, we want to give massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care, while Americans are struggling to pay their health care bills. That was their initial foray into this negotiation. We thought it was absurd. We told them it was absurd, and now they come in here saying that if you don't give us everything that we want, we're going to shut down the government. We think that's preposterous. We think it's totally unacceptable, and we think the American people are going to suffer because these guys won't do the right thing. Now, I want to make one final point here. You will hear a lot from Senate Democrats, from House Democrats about the fact that American health care policy is broken. Well, we know that American health care policy is broken. We've been trying to fix it for the 8 months that we've been in office. But every single thing that they accuse about being broken about American health care is policy that Democrats have supported for the past decade. So if they want to talk about how to fix American health care policy, let's do it. The Speaker would love to do it. The Senate Majority Leader would love to do it. Let's work on it together. But let's do it in the context of an open government that's providing essential services to the American people. That's all that we're proposing to do. And the fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to see.
Democrats want a $1.5 trillion spending package that funded free healthcare for illegals. We told them that was absurd. And now they're willing to shut down the government over it. It is unacceptable. That is a complete and total lie. Not a single dollar, not one penny of that 1.5 trillion goes to healthcare for unauthorized immigrants. Zero. Unauthorized immigrants are already barred by law from receiving federally funded healthcare. They can't get Medicaid. They can't get Medicare. They can't buy insurance on ACA exchanges. They don't get subsidies. Democrats' proposal doesn't change any of that. What that 1.5 trillion actually funds is healthcare for 21.3 million Americans who depend on ACA subsidies and 72.5 million Americans on Medicaid. Nearly half of them are children, your neighbors, your coworkers, maybe you. But JD Vance is lying to your face and hoping you'll get angry at immigrants instead of noticing that Republicans just gave a little $48,000 tax cut to people making over $800,000 a year. And now won't extend your health care. Now let me tell you about what's actually happening and what's about to go down when the government shuts down tonight. Here's an example. Sarah Thompson is a TSA agent at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. She has two kids, ages 6 and 9. Her rent is $1,800 a month. When the government shuts down tonight, she'll have to go to work tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. She'll still screen passengers. She'll still enforce security protocols, keep travelers safe, but she won't get paid. Not on Friday. Not next week, maybe not for weeks. Meanwhile, the senator who voted to cause this shutdown, he gets his $174,000 salary, guaranteed, because congressional pay is written into permanent law. And now JD Vance, who just lied to you, he gets his little vice president salary of $284,600 guaranteed. Kids lose their food, but lawmakers still eat. The rich get their tax breaks, and now working families are being told that the problem is immigrants. Let me explain what this actually means for you and for working families and how Republicans are using the oldest trick in the book to distract you from what they're really doing. Here's what a government shutdown means in real numbers. 6.7 million women, infants, and children depend on WIC, the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program. Half of all babies born in the United States receive WIC benefits. When the government shut down in 2019, states had enough reserve funding for about a month. After that, the money runs out. That means a mother in Mississippi cannot afford to get formula for her 3-month-old. A pregnant woman in Ohio can't get nutrition that she needs. A toddler in Arizona goes hungry. 2 million federal workers will not get paychecks. The average federal worker makes about $95,000 a year. That sounds comfortable until you realize that most of them live in expensive cities near federal offices. A GS7 employee in the DC area makes about $50,000. After taxes, that's roughly $3,000 a month. Their rent might be $1,500 a month. They got student loans, car payments, childcare, one missed paycheck, and they're choosing between groceries and rent. During the 35-day shutdown in 2018 through 2019, federal workers lined up at food banks. TSA agents called in sick because they couldn't afford gas to get to work. Air traffic controllers worked while worried about losing their homes. The American Federation of Government Employees reported members taking out loans with 300% interest rates just to survive. 41.2 million Americans depend on SNAP food stamps. The average benefit is $195 per person per month. That's about $6.50 a day to eat. During extended shutdowns, that funding is at risk. Imagine telling a single mother of 3 in Detroit that her $585 a month in food assistance might disappear because Congress couldn't agree on a budget. And here's the kicker. While all of this is happening, the 535 members of Congress continue receiving their salaries. $174,000 a year for most members, $223,500 for leadership. They caused this crisis and they get paid through it. So why is this happening? Well, in July, Republicans passed a massive tax cut law. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office analyzed it, and the law gives $1.3 trillion in tax cuts to over 10 years, with the vast majority going to wealthy individuals and corporations. People making over $400,000 a year got an average tax cut of $48,000. People making under $75,000 got about $500 cut. To pay for those tax cuts, the same law slashed Medicaid funding and stripped healthcare coverage from 1.2 million lawfully present immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, DACA recipients, people who came here legally. Now, the Affordable Care Act subsidies that helps 21.3 million Americans afford health insurance are set to expire at the end of the year. Without those subsidies, the average family would see their premiums increase by $700 per year. For some families, it's thousands more. Democrats want to extend those subsidies. Democrats also want to restore some of the Medicaid cuts. Republicans are saying no, they'd rather shut down the government than restore health care to people who need it. But they can't just say, we're choosing tax cuts for billionaires over health care. So they're lying about it. And what Democrats are actually trying to do is say, like, let's just cut to a clip of J.D. Vance. Remember what J.D. Vance said right here. Democrats want $1.5 trillion spending package that funded free healthcare for illegals. Let me be clear about what Democrats in their proposal actually does. It extends ACA subsidies for 21.3 million Americans, your neighbors, your coworkers, maybe you, who buy insurance on the healthcare exchange. Without these subsidies, a 60-year-old making $55,000 a year would see their premium go from $450 a month to $1,500 a month. That's $12,600 more per year. For somebody making $55,000 a year, that's not sustainable. They'll drop their insurance and hope they don't get sick. The proposal restores Medicaid funding to help 72.5 million Americans, nearly half of them children, who access health care. Medicaid covers 40% of all births in the U.S. It covers kids with disabilities. It covers nursing home care for elderly Americans who spent their whole lives working and paying taxes. Not a single dollar in the Democrats' proposal goes to providing free health care for unauthorized immigrants and their abortions. Not $1. Here's what really is happening. Unauthorized immigrants are already barred from federally funded healthcare programs by law. They cannot buy health insurance on government exchanges set up by the Affordable Care Act. They cannot receive subsidies. They're ineligible for Medicaid, Medicare, and the Children's Health Insurance Program. I'll say it again. Democrats' budget proposal does not give unauthorized immigrants health care. It doesn't pay for their abortions or their transgender surgeries. It doesn't make them eligible. It doesn't change their status. JD Vance is lying. So where is this lie coming from? Well, Republicans are deliberately confusing unauthorized immigrants, people here illegally, with lawfully present immigrants. These are completely different categories. And Republicans know it. And lawfully present immigrants include refugees fleeing war and persecution, like Afghan translator who helped U.S. troops for years and was resettled in Arizona with his family. He's here legally. He was getting health care insurance through subsidies. Republicans took that away. Asylum seekers who came here legally, presented themselves to authorities, are waiting for their cases to be heard, like the Venezuelan woman who fled political persecution and is living in Florida while her case is being processed. She's here legally. She was getting health care. Republicans took that away. DACA recipients who were brought here as children, who grew up American, who went to American schools and are working and paying taxes, like the 28-year-old nurse in Texas who was brought here at age 3 and has no memory of any other country. She's protected under DACA. She was getting health insurance through subsidies. Republicans took that away. People with green cards who are here on the path to citizenship. Legal permanent residents who work, who pay taxes and contribute to their communities. Under Trump's tax cut law from July, these are 1.2 million lawfully present immigrants who lost their eligibility for healthcare subsidies. These people are here legally. Many are refugees we promised to help. Many are asylum seekers following our legal process. Many are DACA recipients who lived here their entire conscious lives. Democrats want to restore healthcare for these 1.2 million people. That's what this fight is about. But Republicans are calling these illegal immigrants illegals and claiming Democrats want to give them free healthcare. The Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan agency, estimated that 1.2 million people lost healthcare coverage because of the Republican cuts. The CBO called these people illegal immigrants. Republicans added to that language themselves just to deceive you. And when the Democrats tried to explain the actual consequences of what the Republicans are doing, rural hospitals closing, Americans losing coverage, let's see what happened.
On to what Senator Schumer said, that there were aspects about health care ending for certain people that the president was learning about for the first time in that meeting. And was the president open to a deal on the ACA subsidies?
Well, I'm highly skeptical that the president was learning about it for the first time, thanks to Chuck Schumer. But what I will say is, look, we have put a $50 billion rural hospital fund into the big, beautiful bill that we passed a few months ago, because we know that under Biden administration's policies, there are a lot of small town hospitals, a lot of rural health care that was getting shut down and that was struggling. We're trying to fix that problem. In fact, we're happy to work with Democrats to fix that problem. We want to work across the aisle to make sure that people have access to good health care. We are not going to let Democrats shut down the government, take a hostage, unless we give them everything that they want. That's not how the people's government has ever worked. That's certainly not how it's going to work under the Trump administration.
According to reports, Trump was hearing about the consequences for healthcare and the closing of rural hospitals for the first time during their meeting with the Democrats. They passed a law that's stripping healthcare for over 1 million people and forcing rural hospitals to close, and Trump didn't even know about it. Let me tell you about it. Those rural hospitals. Since 2010, 141 rural hospitals have closed in the United States, and another 700 are at risk of closure. When a rural hospital closes, people die. Studies show that after a rural hospital closes, mortality rates for heart attacks and strokes increase by 6% because people can't get emergency care in time. In Texas, a woman named Laura Brandt was 8 months pregnant when the nearest hospital closed. The next closest hospital was 87 miles away. When she went into labor, she didn't make it in time. She delivered her baby in the car on the side of the highway. The baby was fine, but Laura hemorrhaged. By the time they got her to a hospital, she had lost so much blood that she needed a transfusion and nearly died. That's what happens when rural hospitals close. And the Medicaid cuts Republicans passed are forcing more closures because Medicaid reimbursement is often what keeps these rural hospitals afloat. Here's what this means for working families in plain language. If you're one of the 21.3 million Americans who get health insurance through the Affordable Care Act exchanges and you receive subsidies to help pay your premium, those expire at the end of the year unless Congress extends them. Democrats want to extend them. Republicans are saying no. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, without subsidies, a family of four making $60,000 a year would see their premium go from $223 per month to $1,441 per month. That's an increase of over $14,000 per year. For a family making $60,000 a year, that's 23% of their entire income just for health insurance. They can't afford that. They're going to drop coverage and gamble that nobody gets sick or in an accident. If you're on Medicaid or your kids are covered by Medicaid, the Republican cuts mean reduced coverage and less services. States will have less federal money for Medicaid, which means they'll either cut eligibility, kicking people off, or reduce what's covered. If the government shuts down, federal workers in your community will not get paid. That means less money circulating in the local economy. During the 2018 and 2019 shutdown, the Congressional Budget Office estimated that it cost the economy $11 billion, with $3 billion permanently lost. Small businesses near federal offices saw sales drop 30 to 40%. Restaurants had empty tables, retail shops had fewer customers. The economic ripple effects hit everyone. If you depend on WIC for your baby's formula or your toddler's food, that could be disrupted. Picture this. Maria Gonzalez, a mother of two in New Mexico. Her 8-month-old son has a dairy allergy and requires special hypoallergenic formula that costs $50 per can. WIC covers it. Without WIC, she can't afford it. Her baby can't digest regular formula. What is she supposed to do if you need STAT benefits to feed your family, to feed your children, and we extend these shutdowns? Everyone's put at risk. During the 2018 and 2019 shutdown, February SNAP benefits were issued early and then nothing. Families got money at the beginning of February and then they had to make it last until the shutdown ended. A single mother in Alabama with 3 kids had $450 in SNAP benefits to figure it out how to feed her family for 6 weeks on $450. She skipped meals so her kids could eat. Meanwhile, the tax cuts Republicans just passed in July, the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy broke down the benefits and who really benefits. The top 1% of earners making over $800,000 a year got an average tax cut of $48,000. The top 0.1% people making over $3.4 million got an average cut of $175,000. The bottom 60% of earners, people making under $75,000 a year, got an average tax cut of $500. Many families in this bracket will actually see their taxes go up in the coming years as certain provisions expire. The cost of those cuts, $1.3 trillion over 10 years. To pay for it, they cut Medicaid, stripped healthcare from 1.2 million immigrants who are here legally, and now they're refusing to extend ACA subsidies. That's the trade-off. Republicans chose $48,000 tax cuts for people making over $800,000 a year over healthcare for working families to appease their donors. And now they're blaming immigrants to distract you from that choice. And speaking of being completely detached from the reality that working families are facing, let me show you what Trump was doing last night as the shutdown loomed. Cut to the clip.
Breaking now. President Donald J. Trump has announced a historic new healthcare system, the launch of America's first medbed hospitals and a national medbed card for every citizen.
Every American will soon receive their own medbed card. With it, you'll have guaranteed access to our new hospitals led by the top doctors in the nation, equipped with the most advanced technology in the world. These facilities are safe, modern, and designed to restore every citizen to full health and strength. This is the beginning of a new era in American healthcare.
In this first phase, only a limited number of medbed cards will be released. Registration details will be announced very soon.
Trump posted AI-generated slop about miracle hospital beds that cure all illness in a now deleted post. What? While real hospitals are closing, he's posting AI delusions, fever dreams, while real families like Laura Brant's are delivering babies on the highway because the nearest hospital shut down, while babies might not get formula because WIC funding is about to be disrupted, Donald Trump has completely lost his marbles. This is just the oldest playbook in American politics. When the government does something that hurts working people, let's blame immigrants. Remember the 1990s when politicians blamed welfare recipients, coded language for Black mothers, for budget deficits, while corporations got billions in subsidies? Remember 2008 when banks crashed the economy with predatory lending and got bailed out with $700 billion in taxpayer money? And politicians blamed immigrants for the recession? It's always the same pattern. It makes you think the problem is people who look different than you or speak different languages, not the politicians who are actually making your life harder. Republicans stripped healthcare from refugees and asylum seekers, people here legally. Then they lied and called them illegal immigrants getting free healthcare and transgender surgeries. They're counting on you to hear illegal and get angry without asking questions. They're counting on you to not notice, while they're screaming about immigrants, that they're the ones who cut your healthcare, cut your nutrition programs for your kids, gave tax cuts to billionaires that you are not one of. Here's what that $1.5 trillion Vance mentioned actually funds. Healthcare subsidies for 21.3 million working families, Medicaid for 72.5 million Americans, nearly half of them children, not a single dollar for unauthorized immigrants. But we're saying we're blocking healthcare for American families so rich people can keep their tax cuts. It doesn't sound good, so they lie. They lie about immigrants. The cruelty is the point. They cut healthcare from over 1 million legal immigrants. They're blocking healthcare extensions for American families. They're willing to shut down the government and let babies go without formula. So when the government shuts down in the next few hours, when Sarah Thompson, the TSA agent, doesn't get paid, when Maria Gonzalez can't get formula for her baby, when families lose healthcare and rural hospitals close, remember who did this and why. Republicans passed $1.3 trillion in tax cuts for the ultra wealthy. Democrats want to extend healthcare for working families. Republicans are saying no and blaming immigrants for their own cruelty. Don't let them get away with it. When Republicans blame immigrants, they're hoping you won't notice. They're the ones taking the food away from kids and the healthcare away from families. Pay attention to what they do, not what they say, and definitely not what they say about immigrants, because what they're doing is choosing $48,000 in tax cuts for millionaires over healthcare for babies, and they're hoping you're too angry at immigrants to notice. And if you've enjoyed this video or if it's expanded your perspective, I'm going to ask you to take a moment to subscribe. I am Lauren P. I am Lauren P. across all social channels, and families belong together, and billionaires shouldn't exist.